Coach Yeskie, who is in the bullpen, is very familiar with the phone call the person on the other end of the phone call I had to take. He is a big reason why Coach Yeskie is here in Baton Rouge. He is leaving Texas A&M, coming here, leaves our friend Nolan Kane. Nolan Kane must have not had a good enough recruiting pitch to keep him there. That's okay. I'm glad he's here. Coach, appreciate you joining the show. I know it's your first time on the show. We are a bunch of goofballs, and we're just enjoying the conversation with you. So thank you for being here.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
No, anytime. Coach, your track record obviously speaks for itself. You coached under Jay at Arizona. You're at Oregon State. Y'all came down here to Baton Rouge when y'all had, I think, a sub-2 ERA as a team. You're at A&M. Y'all did great things there, and you move over here to Baton Rouge. What went into that decision to come here to LSU? What made you want to leave College Station to come here to Baton Rouge?
Well, obviously, you look at the program and the history. You look at what a lot of players like yourselves and the guys that are sitting there with you, what you guys had put together over the years. And I think that's kind of at the forefront of a lot of young players' minds where they want to be. And certainly the conference, there's an opportunity to stay within the conference and dial it up on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then just the familiarity, I think, with Jay, Chief, and knowing guys like Josh and the other guys out on the road that are recruiting right now, kind of getting a sense to be around those guys and know what they're about. So when that opportunity came, Jay had reached out after the series was finished, and we had a chance to kind of iron some things out and figure out really kind of what we wanted to do moving forward. And I think that both of our visions kind of aligned. So made for an easy decision. Coach,
you coached at Oregon State, coached at Arizona, and then moved over to A&M. So you've coached in two major baseball conferences. You have some experience now in the SEC. What is, in your opinion, the difference between the Pac-12 and the SEC, and what makes the SEC kind of the premier college conference in college baseball?
I think it's the depth. I think when you're starting to dig into teams' bullpens, there's still some power arms that are being run out. Kids are throwing harder and harder nowadays, so there's still the pitching element that has to be involved, but there isn't such a drop-off. And it's the same thing when you're going through a lineup. Typically, you try to remind kids in this league, the guys that they saw last year in travel ball or in a good high school league, you see that 3 and 4 hole hitter who's now maybe hitting in the 7 hole or the 8 hole, or he's a platoon guy, just trying to find the right matchup for him. So you're being tested. Guys are certainly a lot closer to the big leagues. It's probably one of the biggest jumps, if not the biggest jump, that a young man's going to make from high school to the Division I ranks. Then when you compound that running up against guys like Skeens, Cruz, and others, it certainly makes for quite the challenge. So the league it offers, I think, a more aggressive style of baseball, and certainly the involvement. And when they say it just means more in this conference, there's no doubt. Having been to the conference tournament 2 years in a row now and seeing the support from every fan base, it's certainly a fun thing to be a part of.
Coach, quite an accomplished player yourself at UNLV and through your time through professional ball. Getting your college career or college coaching career started at your alma mater, was it always a goal of yours to get to bigger schools and or maybe the SEC, or did starting at where you started at was something you kind of saw yourself there for a long time and the college carousel happens how it happens and the movement goes how it goes?
Well, I think much like as a player, you want to challenge yourself and go where the best are. So was very fortunate to get my first job, kind of went into it not knowing what to expect, was just trying to learn the process. I knew that I wanted to get into college coaching. I knew that back when I was a player in college. I thought, man, this is pretty cool. These guys I get to hang out with every day, they get paid to do this. And if for some reason as a player it doesn't work out, then this might be something I want to pursue, because you can impact guys on a daily basis, both on and off the field. And I'm really passionate about those things. So when you start thinking about what you want to do and how you want to do it, starting out there was great. But boy, when you're playing some of the other programs, and we were fortunate enough to get into regional my first year, and seeing the gap between, I think we were maybe the 3 seed, possibly the 4, I think we're the 4 actually playing at Arizona State. You see that gap, so you're always aspiring to challenge yourself and go to Omaha. I think that's what every young player wants to do. And when I didn't get a chance to do that as a player, part of that was at the hands of the Tigers. I got a chance to play down at the old Alex Box. That was my last college game in 1996.
Yeah, wow. Me too. We're showing our age here.
That's all right, man. You just age like fine wine. But when those opportunities came to move on to other programs, it was something that I personally wanted to do as a challenge. And then I've been fortunate enough over the years that my family's been extremely supportive of those moves and are excited about it. They've had their own experiences. I think it was maybe 2 months in to my daughter after she was being born. We actually played down there again in 2012 in a regional, and the people were tremendous, just tremendous. From the people in the stadium that were fans, the people that worked in the stadium. Some of them, heck, they even recognized my wife when we came down there 2 years ago and said, "Aren't you the lady with the baby from a couple of years back?" And she was blown away. She really, they knew everything about her. He said, "You were here with Oregon State." And they said, "Where's the baby?" And she pointed over, and at the time, I believe she was 10, so she looked a little bit different. Everybody was shocked, but it's just such an inviting place. And if you're a part of it, not so much if you're in the other dugout. Right. And that's, I think, one of the things that makes it special.
Yeah, absolutely. The people down here in Louisiana, they have a tendency of just kind of drawing you in here to Louisiana. Like Baton Rouge doesn't really have a ton of big things going on, but LSU itself is a huge brand. The people here, I think, is what makes it. Speaking of people, right? So a good friend of mine, before I get to him, baseball, the way baseball is going, it's a lot about analytics. It's a lot about, you have weighted balls and guys are throwing harder and all these kind of things. And I think some of the pitchability kind of gets lost, right? And a friend of mine, a guy that you are very familiar with, and Matt Boyd, he was a teammate of mine in Detroit. He sent me a text the minute he heard that you were hired. He said, "You're going to love this guy. He changed my career." He has a perfect mix of old school mentality with new age teaching, and he understands how to mix and match that, right? Can you talk a little bit about your teaching strategies and the way you go about teaching the art of pitching? Because at the end of the day, it's kind of an art form.
For sure. No, I think it's every guy is kind of like a code, and you got to crack them. You got to find out the things that motivate them, find out the things that inspire them, and then find out the things that work. I mean, the body's got limitations for everybody, and players work hard to try to do some of the things that they can to advance their skill set. For a guy like Matt, it's the beauty of this game, who comes in out of a high school, probably throwing somewhere between 84 and 88 miles an hour. We used him in some starting roles, kind of moved him into the bullpen for the next handful of years. And he was drafted after his junior year, and he'd always wanted to start. And when he got a chance to come back to school, he started advance his game along the lines of what you're saying. We delved into, we were the first program at Oregon State, at least from the Division I level, that jumped into driveline. Took a lot of criticism and a lot of heat because people didn't understand it. And now I think you can find it at every park that you go to, from, I would say, on the age of 13, 14 on up into the big league level. So I think you always have to learn. You have to continue to grow, but you also still have to stay attached and kind of anchored to the things that are time-tested and proven. So when you're talking about players and how they develop, you try to apply those things in every area with some of those guys. And with a guy like Matt, once he started taking on some of those newer things and attached him to the stuff that his dad had done a tremendous job of building with him when he was younger, now all of a sudden you see the velo start jumping. It's 92, it's 93, it's 94. He's holding it deeper into games. And that, I think, kind of influences, or at least motivates, the next wave of guys to come in there and say, well, shoot, I better start maybe dabbling in this a little bit, or at least be open to hearing what this is about. And it was funny because for Matt, his whole exposure to it, I think, really came through a player that was on his dad's summer team. And he went home for Christmas break, and he was a guy similar, kind of upper 80s, lower 90s. And then next thing you know, the kid's throwing a bullpen going 97, 98, and guys are going, this doesn't make any sense. So, like, he just left 6 months ago, and so I got a call from Matt on that. So for each player.
Uh-oh. Coach, you there?
Pitch side, the guys that can assist, they're usually
Coach, I think we lost you for a second. There we go. You're back. You're back. We're back live. Technology sometimes will get you.
You got us.
yeah.
Jay, you had a question?
Yeah, I was gonna say we touched on kind of the art form of pitching. You've touched on the depth in this conference as it is. I'm gonna probe you a little bit and see if you've done your homework. But of the guys that are, for sure that are returners here at LSU this year, of the guys that the LSU fans didn't get to see, whether it was because of the youth and there was so much depth there and they just didn't really get a chance to throw that much, which one of these young guys can you see taking a huge step forward next year? Because as we know, like I said, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Different conversations, different words, work with different people, and you never know who can actually pop and jump next year.
For sure. I think when you start looking at the guys that are coming in, you've got the freshman class. Certainly excited to get Cam Johnson on campus, and you're looking at Anderson, Brown. I mean, there's a list of guys there. When you start thinking about the guys that are coming back, I know Moffitt's got a big arm. I know that Primo's got a big arm. Bucknam's been throwing the ball well in the Cape and kind of tracking along with what those guys are doing. And I mean, it's a pretty good list to choose from as you're looking at these guys. And I've had a chance to talk to them on the phone and get a sense of where they're at, kind of learning a little bit more about them and letting them put it into their terms. I'll dive into the film a little bit more when I get a chance, and then we'll start putting some things into play for each one of those guys. But there's a blend of left-handers, right-handers. You got arm strength guys. I mean, Guidry just kind of took the ball and ran with it towards the end of the year. And
Literally.
At the beginning of the year, nobody knew who he was.
Right.
And that's the beauty of kind of how this thing unfolds and unplay, for each guy. So excited about them, excited about some of the new commits that have come through the portal. And I think it'll be a good blend of guys across the board that'll be hungry to move to the front and get a chance to go out and compete on their own.
Coach, you coached with one of me and Jared's really good friends, and Nolan Kane.
No, one of ours, two of mine.
Because Kristen.
Yeah. No, Michael too.
Michael early. I forgot. You played with early. Did Nolan give you any pointers or any tips, or say, hey, you got to do this when you get to Baton Rouge? Did he kind of give you a welcome package before you left, or did he kick you out the door and say, "I'm mad at you
Baton Rouge
for
for starters"?
Yeah, Nolan's great.
Yeah.
He was a joy to work with, and you guys know how he is. I mean, he shows up to work, and he's pretty even keeled with everything that goes along. He knows what the players are that are out there, and certainly enjoyed my time with him. I think that there was probably a little frustration in some sense, just because he and I had talked about maybe working together over the years. We'd see each other out on the recruiting trail and obviously run into each other in the postseason in Omaha. So we've gotten to know each other pretty well. He said if I needed some help to give him a call, just to see where maybe the hot spots were in town, where to go eat, and maybe I'll defer to you guys and give him some more space for a little while.
Yeah, there you go. I promise you, there's not going to be lack of places to eat here. That's one thing Louisiana does really well is food. You may gain some weight here, but that's okay. It happens. You'll learn how to manage that.
The only way to manage that is you just make it to May and June baseball again and just sweat it all off.
Yeah, that's
really all you could do.
That's exactly it. Another guy you've built a relationship with, obviously, is Jay, right? You and Jay have a long history with each other. Talk about what it's like working with him, the relationship that y'all have, and what ultimately brought you. Obviously, the relationship had to help bring you here to Baton Rouge.
For sure, familiarity I think is key for everybody. When you look at guys that give you a platform to work within, they give you some freedom to do some things. I know in my time when I went to Arizona, he said, listen, I don't want to go to the mound. I don't want to talk to the pitchers. They're yours. Do what you need to do. Just get it handled and run with it. So having that freedom and having that support from somebody, the other side of it too, I believe, is just when you match up with somebody. Remember, he's kind of an offensive-minded guy, so when he was dialing up against our pitching staff over the years in the conference and even non-conference games back to when he was at San Diego. Had played against him at some of my previous stops. When you look at that, I think you gain an appreciation for how guys go about their business, how they build a pitching staff in this sense, and how when you get to work with those guys and you get some insight into there, you start to develop some comfort. So I think those are some of the things that probably happened across the board for both he and I. And then, I was watching the series. I knew Chief would have those guys positioned well in the outfield, and those are all things that factor into your decisions when you're thinking about not just working with people because you like them, but also working with them because they're good at what they do. And that cohesiveness lends to your culture, and that culture just starts to kind of become a driving force for you.
I guess what's next for you? Are you on the road traveling, recruiting now? Are you back home? Have you made the move to Baton Rouge? Or have you hit the ground running? There's a lot of moving parts in these situations. So
that July schedule behind him is awful empty.
Yeah,
this thing's about to change.
What's the move?
Yeah, we had to wipe it clean and start over. So we're going to be moving in some different directions, but trying to handle what I can here at home base and watching video, talking to guys, talking to scouts, talking to people that have seen the guys, just trying to get every piece of information that I can. And then we'll circle back when the kids get back to campus. I'll be headed over there relatively soon, hopefully in the next 48 hours or so, maybe just a touch longer. But looking forward to hitting the ground running and seeing some guys and getting a chance to pick the brains of the greats. I mean, when we were there 2 years ago, Skip Bertman walked across and said hello, remembered my days as a Team USA trials guy, knew everything about kind of the history. So I thought maybe he had printed out my bio and was sitting in the parking lot reading it before he came in. But they said, no, man, he don't miss a beat. He's dialed into it. And then, gotten a chance to see Ben McDonald a handful of times in the postseason, ran into him at the conference tournament. And then, just guys like yourself, people that have perspective. I think the people make a place what it is, and their perspective can certainly enhance a lot of those. Try to get a leg up and get off to a good head start.
Well, Coach, we're looking forward to having you over here. We're looking forward to you hitting the ground running. I'm excited to see what you do with the pitching staff that you inherit and the guys that you bring in the future. And I'm, like you said, we love LSU. We love LSU baseball, and we're just happy that you're part of the family now, and looking forward to seeing everything that you do here. So thank you so much for your time, and we'll definitely have you on again once you get your feet settled. If you need any recommendations on food, we got you taken care of. I can promise you that.
I'll be sure to hit you guys up, and thanks for having me, man. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
It's got it down already.
That's it. I love it. There you go. Enjoy your day. Thanks, Coach.